On my part, yeah.
Hi,
Now,
welcome to the Church of Mabus Radio. It's Friday night. It's be 7 o'clock where we're coming in live in Central and 8 o'clock on the East Coast. Jeff has stepped out for a minute. We're having some third dimensional problems with a huge echo. Hopefully we can get that taken care of. He's going to another computer and he'll be coming back in momentarily. For the show tonight, though, we have Aage Nost. Aage has some really, really great stuff on his website if you haven't seen it yet. Aage, great to have you back. What have you been doing lately and how are you feeling?
well, first of all, I'm feeling really good. And for the second, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. It just happens. But yeah, we're going to have some fun tonight because it is great to talk about all that exotic stuff about what's on the moon and extraterrestrials. But I also want to give people something that will make their life better. There are
Yeah.
so many things that we have never been talked to or told about by government and institutions and medical and all that. They're just covering up the good stuff so they can make money on us. And I want to talk a little bit about that somewhere in the show where, in fact, for those of you older guys out there and girls, did you know that in 2009, three doctors got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process? You probably didn't know that, but I'd like to mention a little bit about that because some of you older folks out there, I think you'd like to know because it's so simple.
I would definitely like to know. Yeah, if you want to give us that, that would be awesome. There was also I've been hearing on Joe Montaldo's show. We've been talking about I think it's Johnson and Johnson. I'm not sure. One of the larger pharmaceutical companies has allegedly come out with a two-part binary. I don't know if you call it a recipe or a remedy that supposedly reduces the aging process. Doesn't necessarily end it, but slows it down tremendously. One pill slows the aging, and then the other pill allegedly takes like 30 years off of your organs and skin, and is allegedly a painful pill. I don't know if you heard about that as well, but yeah, we'd definitely like to hear about that enzyme.
Yeah, I know. And what people can do if they want to have a look at what the pharmaceuticals are doing, then they can go and research a product called TA-65. TA-65. And it is purported out there like, oh, it's going to reverse your aging process, stop it, or whatever. And some people say, yeah, that really worked great for me. Other people say, I got nothing. So it is up to you. But the thing about that is that it sets you back about $400 to $600 a month to do this.
Wow, yeah, that's a little
Yeah,
costly.
I- I'm cheap, so I do it the cheap way because
Yeah.
that is using herbs so the body can create this enzyme on its own. And there is a lot of evidence for this happening. There is books out writing about it, medical doctors, actually a few writing about it. And I found some very old people. For those of you guys out there that like to surf the net while we're talking, just go ahead and search on the 256-year-old man. Yes, he was 256 when he died from an accident. And the government,
200.
yeah, 256. And the government verify his age on two or three different occasions by a congratulations to him on his age. So, yes, it is possible. And another guy, since we're on this subject, I might as well go a little bit with it because there was a Chinese university professor that came to New York in the 1950s on an exchange program. He was talking at the university in New York, and one of our people went to China, to Peking at the time. Actually, it was before Beijing, and they were the Chinese university professor. He went out with his colleagues one evening to have dinner, and he got food poisoning and died. So you know what happens. He ends up at the morgue, and they look through his paper. Then they say, no, 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 this is something wrong here. So they called the ambassador from China, And they asked him something wrong with him because his passport show he's 250. No, he is 154 years. I think it was 154 years old. And they said, no, that can't be right. And the ambassador said, yeah, he is. And they asked the ambassador, how can that be? And the ambassador told them, first of all, he only eat Chinese herbs and berries. And the secondary effect is that he knew he could never die. Those two things kept him alive. But of course, in the American diet and the way we live, that's not going to go over too well because, hey, we like that steak, right? And
like that cheeseburger.
yeah, there you go. Actually, a double decker, and that just puts you in an early grave. But if you let go of some of that and stay with a diet, not necessarily all Chinese herbs and berries, because there are also American and European and wherever people are listening, they have local herbs that will do and keep the body alive. Fruits, vegetables. Yeah, this can be done. So, in fact, in this book here, spirit. Oh, you can't see that.
Yeah, you got to put it in front of your body because your
Yeah,
background hides it a little.
spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness. In there, I explain what I do. I have been on this program for a while, and I think it's working for me because I have more energy than anybody I know. And well, in a few days, actually, I'm going to be 78. So I think I'm doing something right. And
yeah, I would have guessed, mid to late 60s. And you said you're 78?
Yeah, no, well, I'm 77 right now, but on the 28th of this month, I will be 78, according to my mom. But you know how that is, they may not tell the truth all the time, but I think she did. So this is something that people can really do. It is simple. You can
Yeah,
get.
I totally understand. I mean, what I don't understand is, it's written in many ancient texts, and particularly the Bible is the main one I could think of, where at some point there are people in the Bible who are 8,000-9,000 years old, 800, 900,000 years old. Noah's father, Methuselah, was something on the order of like 1,080 years when he died. Noah's father was like 900 years old when he died,
Yep.
and Noah was like 800 when he died. There's the King's List, the Sumerian King's List, that mentions guys with tremendous lifespans, 35, 40,000 year old lifespans.
Yeah.
Is there a way to restrict by genetics? I don't know if you would know this answer. I don't know, but is there a way to restrict by genetics the age that a creature can maintain or get to?
Yes, absolutely. The Sumerian king list and the Hebrew writings, they talk about there were 8 kings that ruled earth for 241 years. Now, 241,000 years. So you divide that up, and about 30,000 years each. Some of them were actually 70,000.
Yeah, there's some really long. I mean, I think one of the kings on the Sumerian kings list is like, he's got 100. He lived 120,000 years lifespan, and then lived rules for 70 or 80,000.
Yep.
And these are probably years well before, I'd say, going well beyond written history. It has to be. But what is it that caused? I mean, if there are human beings that live 90,000 years, 100,000 years, why can't we achieve that?
Well, lifestyle and lack of knowledge.
Genetics,
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
But I think maybe we should mention what actually causes aging and death. First of all, science has found out what causes aging, and that is that it comes back to the telomeres inside of the cells.
Yeah.
The telomeres at the end of the chromosomes, they are shortening a little bit every time that the cell replicates itself, all the way down to the point when there is nothing left. And then the end of the chromosome start fraying, and the cell is no longer able to replicate itself, and you get stuck with old cells in the body. You get more and more and more old cells, and you get older and you're more wrinkled and you die. Now, there is a way to stop this and slow it down, and that is to have enough of an enzyme in the body that will help to keep the telomeres longer. And
That's that TA65.
no, it's an enzyme that is called telomerase. And don't take my word for that. Go to the Nobel Committee's website, go to 2009, and scroll down to medical submissions and read the papers. You're going to love it, because in there it explains why this enzyme is actually preventing the telomeres to shorten. So the cells in your body are able to replicate continuously without interruption or shutdown. And in the book here, I explain what I do for one thing, and also more about why this happens. Read the paper at the Nobel Committee's website. That's got a lot of credibility to it. But that was in 2009. Hey, that's a while back. So much more. Yeah, much more knowledge has come out now. So it is more understandable now why we can actually slow down and stop or even reverse the aging process.
So we're close to immortality, it sounds like. Now with this the telomer, the enzyme is telomerase?
Telomerase, whichever way you pronounce it.
So when taking this, you were saying before that each time the cell replicates, the telomeres get smaller and smaller and smaller. So once you take this enzyme, let's say you have 10 telomeres left and the cell replicates, it comes back with 10 cells. It comes back with that 10, or does it come back with the full complement?
Well,
or whatever it had originally.
Yeah, each chromosome, the two end of the chromosome has the telomeres, of one telomere on each end. And that's what's shortening, so the ends start fraying, so they will no longer be able to replicate themselves. But the
so what I'm getting at is like, so you have, let's say you have at the end of the strand of DNA, you have, let's say, 20 telomeres on either end, and this cell replicates, and it comes back. Now it's got 9 on either end, and then it replicates and comes back, and then it's got 8. So there's no way to repair that and make them come back, but we can stop them from disappearing.
Yes, actually, according to the medical research, they say that yes, you can also lengthen the telomeres by taking the substances like the different Chinese herbs, so the body will be able to produce more of this telomerase or telomerase enzyme, so that the cells can have enough of it.
Why isn't this like all over the front pages of every newspaper? I mean, this is groundbreaking.
Yeah, sure it is. You know, there's a depopulation program in going on, so that's why they're not telling you.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, and think about it.
More going on probably is another part of the depopulation there. So,
and the amazing thing is that if you start reversing the aging, all age-related diseases go away. So that's another reason why they don't want to tell you. Think of all that money that is in in repairing.
We talk about that all the time. Big pharma, how they're like they invent drugs that have like really great sounding effects, but not a cure. You know, they make your life better. They make you, and then if you watch any of these pharmaceutical companies particularly like these ones for like the diabetes and the COPDs, they kind of indicate by the actions of the actors in the commercials that unless you take this drug, you can't do this. But they showed them doing like the weirdest things. Like this one lady's a hot air balloon pilot. Another lady's like an expert botanist. You know, it's like, if you don't take our pill, you can't do your work. You can't do your favorite stuff. And which is a bunch of you know what.
You know, a cured person is a lost.
It's lost regular income. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a loud one. A cured person is a lost customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, there was the head of a pharmaceutical company I probably should not mention. He actually said that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. But I mean, that's the retail mindset of it. It's not of a curative mindset. It is of, and probably same thing goes for maybe not all medical professionals, but most medical companies, and including some hospitals, merely are just that. They want a steady income, and you're it. You're essentially a blood bag for the to infuse more money into that system, into that whatever hospital area you're in.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how's my sound besides the dog? Do I sound clearer than I was in the other?
Yes.
You sound good. The dog sounded good too.
Yeah, very annoying terrier.
The dog sounded very mad, Jeffrey. Did you not?
A very annoying terrier that barks at the people that live here who comes into the house every time. It's like, we live here, you buffoon.
Yeah, well, he's asking, where the hell were you? Dude.
It's like, I appreciate the bark, the warning, but every time,
Yeah.
Why don't you bark when the bad guys come around?
But let me tell you, I know about the corrupt pharmaceutical system from when I had to go through chemo at 17. And my dad, the company he worked at, Conair, which was Aetna Insurance, one of the supervisors said, your son costs a lot. You should just let him die. And then, he really said that. Like, they would say demeaning things to him because my insurance costs too much for testicular cancer and all that crap that I had to go through. And basically, some of those shots were as much as like 10 grand a shot. It was like Ocean Life and cadavers. Who knows what was in that stuff? I'm fine now. But it was like the X-Men or something. They were loading you full of all kinds of crazy stuff at chemo. And that was a long time ago. But and my dad, when he was, he passed away from a heart attack and they found him face down on the ground. He had been saying crazy stuff about going to his work and doing some William Wallace Braveheart on him that week. So that was like, that's America, basically, that he was going to go to his work and I guess mess him up. But luckily, well, not luckily, he had a heart attack that hopefully that caused him not to do that and damn his soul or something. So, but I could understand wanting to punch someone in the face like that says something like that. So, or Vlad the Impaler on. But that's my introduction to the pharmaceutical company, everybody.
Yeah, and people that talk like against them like that, heart attacks are easy to create. There are South American beans that you can take the extract out of it, and I'm not going to say the name of it because this is bad news, but you can get the juice from that, and any little thing, any little bit of that juice in the bloodstream, and bingo, you get a heart attack. So this CIA and the people out there, they know about all these things.
Yeah. There's frogs in the South American rainforest that you can get. Some are harmless. They'll mess your world up for a couple of days, but others, you brush against them, you're dead in minutes. So
yeah, and I realize now that you are on a forum where I don't have to be so restrictive in my talk because we're not worried about YouTube here, are we?
No, we're okay with S-bombs, but no F-bombs.
Yeah, no.
And the C word on YouTube, be careful with that one. We are on YouTube on the channel, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll
companies we can't talk about.
Then I'll still be careful.
I understand. I hate it, but definitely that was my introduction. That's why I like Bernie so much. I know people say he was a commie, whatever, but at least there's people dying from cancer working for him, trying to get him into office to help get us better health care. I mean, people died trying to. That's the only reason I cared, because I know what it's like to go through that crap.
Yeah, that's really. What a system.
some of the other proof positive that the at least in this country, that the pharmaceutical companies aren't necessarily looking for a cure. If you look at some of the companies in Europe, they actually do experimentation on drugs with some of the criminal aspects. People who are in for life and whatnot, to get special privileges in jail, they can submit themselves to certain medical procedures and whatnot, and medical testings, and that's how they're finding better drugs over in Europe. So they're actually using resources they have. You've got these people that you can't let back into society. They're going to die in the prison system. There's only a few things that they can do from within prison. Is they can stamp out license plates. Does that benefit Europe? I don't know. But them using their bodies for science to help forward advancements in pharmaceuticals and even medical procedures. If we did that across the board, we would have a whole different economy over here. I think we'd have an uncollapsible economy. But right now, the way it is that every company, it doesn't matter what they are. It could be hardware, it could be paint, it could be clothing, books. Every company wants to be $1 billion company by the end of the century, and it's just like, what are you going to do with $1 billion? You're not using it to help humanity any. It's for you, not for us. And that's the mentality our pharmaceutical companies need to have. They need to, their company motto should be to help all, not just who works within that building.
Yeah, it's a very controlled society, controlled for the purpose of profit. So we just have to deal with that. We're still here in the physical.
Yeah.
So, Aage, I definitely know we want to talk about timelines. What's going on with all that? Everything just seems like it just gets more chaotic every day on weird levels on the world scale. Just
a
lot of chaos.
Yeah, the time and timelines and time travel and all that, it's really hard to wrap our heads around. But it is real. Because I have read probably 6 or 7 scientific journals that say, yes, we know how to make a time travel device, but we just can't do it yet. So why can't they do it yet? I'm sure that if they were to do something like this and it became common knowledge, we may have a challenge on our hand, because a lot of people will be making these machines and they'll be traveling backwards and forwards and screwing up the past, screwing up the future, and we could have a mess on our hand.
That's very true. The problem with the time travel, and I don't disagree with you on that. There's some speculation that there's future humans from Earth coming back in time from the future to fix some massive cataclysm thousands of years in our future. But I mean, I think time travel is very, very difficult to achieve, and probably because it requires a vast amount of energy, and we probably haven't discovered those kind of sources yet. But if we did, and we knew we had the machine, I mean, think about it. If we had Doc Brown's machine, but we didn't have the key to it, and then we got in outer space, we find the key to it. Just think about the chaos that could come from that. I mean, it's just immense amount of damage they could do.
Well, there's all kinds of evidence beyond the technical journals that in fact explains how to do it. And if people want to Google some of this, they can, one of them, let me see, there's a story that is actually, I went and verified it for myself, and that is about a guy. His name was Andrew Carlseen. He was in New York. He was playing the stock market. And he started with $800. And in a matter of a few weeks, he had accumulated $350 million. He did 126 high-risk trades and never lost a dime on one of them. And the regulators started looking at that and they said, wait a minute, that cannot happen. So they went and arrested him for insiders trading and hauled him before the court. And he told the judge, yeah, I'm really sorry. He said, it got out of hand. It got so exciting. He said, I just couldn't stop. And they asked him, how did you do it? And he says, well, it's like this. He says, I am a time traveler. I was from 2256. And the judge laughed at him and he said, you go to jail and we're going to keep you here until you tell us who gave you the information. And the guy sat there for, I think, about 2 days. And the man, they put a $1 million bond on him. And
Wow.
2 days later, a man came in with $1 million worth of cash. And he paid the bond. They both left and they were never seen again. They both left. Now, most people would say, yeah, sure, that's a story that was made up. This couldn't happen. Well, I did a little digging and I found that, yes, there's a record of this guy being in jail and being in front of the court. And he was sitting for 2 days at Rikers Island in New York. So there is a story about this guy that people can actually find. And it was a real story. How did he do 126 high-risk trade without knowing what's going to happen?
It had to have some forewarning of it or something. He had some knowledge.
I kind of think that
if you're playing any game, doesn't matter what it is. There's an old saying that blind squirrel occasionally finds a nut. Well, no matter what game you play, even if you suck at games, you have terrible strategy. Eventually, you're going to win a game, but you're not going to win a game every time you play. It's just it's impossible. Yeah.
And if you want to read about how to make a time travel device, there is a very prestigious, in quote, news source where you can go read about it, bbc.com. And I'll give you the link to it so you can go back and you can rerun the video here and then you can go check it out. bbc.com/news/July 11, 2018. They're talking with scientists and they're saying, yes, we can build a time travel device. I think they call it time travel machine. So
with the stuff they're doing with CERN, I mean, they're definitely getting close to it. They're doing crazy, stupid stuff with that.
Yeah. They're allegedly trying to summon some sort of extra dimensional being, or demon of some sort.
That sounds
the History Channel also is talking to scientists that saying, yeah, we can do this. In fact, there is a guy, it's a professor out in California, Bruce Goldberg. He's teaching how to do it his way of doing time travel. And for those of you that is interested, right in this book, I have a whole chapter on how to do it. And that's why I've been playing with it for well over 2 decades now. And in fact, in 2003, BBC Television came over to the United States to do a TV documentary on time travel. They had Michio Kaku on there and Green and myself. And I demonstrated a small time travel device that I have had some very strange experiences with on that TV documentary. If you go to BBC Television, you can probably find it. And even when you talk about time, now they're telling us that quantum physics says that time does not exist.
Yeah. It's an invention of man.
Yeah. It is a mind construct.
If you think about it on the most basic level, if you take an airplane from New York to San Francisco or Los Angeles, you have essentially traveled into a fake past because you're going backwards 3 hours, so your time changes. But you have also actually traveled forward in time. So it's kind of a weird, time travel is a weird thing to even contemplate because, like I'm saying there, it's just common travel from New York to San Francisco. It's a 6, 7, 8 hour flight. But let's say it's 9 o'clock when you leave New York. When you get to San Francisco, it's 3 hours earlier than it is in New York. So you have essentially traveled 3 hours into the past, but you've also traveled forward in time, but your clock went backwards. So it can really boggle the mind if you're not careful.
Yeah, and also There's a mathematician, Tom von Bach. He said that time is not constant because the time is actually it's a mind construct that we created in order to be able to understand the happenings, because the past, present, and future is sitting all in the present. But that wouldn't be very easy to look at. How do we, if we're going to see everything at once, how do we discern that? That just wouldn't work. So we have created this construct of present moments placed one after another, and they are very close. The distance between each present moment is the Planck distance. That is 1 to the 32nd powers to the negative, I think. I forget the exact there, but I'm 90% close on that one. Now, if you look at the present moments, there is actually some evidence that this is the way it is, because there is an electronic instrument called the square wave generator that works on the very same principle. It has a sine wave that spikes, move over a little bit, and collapses to nothing. And then it spikes again and move over a little bit and collapses to nothing. In between each of those spikes, there is no electric activity. In between each present moment in our so-called linear time, space and time does not exist. It recreates itself out of absolutely nothing and spike, and we have a present moment with all kinds of happenings in it, and then it collapses to nothing. That's how time is stretched out, so we can understand the happenings as they go along, and we move through those present moments so fast that it looks like one continuous movie, and you are the star actor in the movie.
So it sounds like you're describing a wave. I mean,
Yes.
it's been proven recently that we know gravity works on the same type of energy waves that radiation and light work on.
Yep.
So if time is an actual construct of the universe, then it makes common sense that it also functions in waves and frequencies.
Yeah. Yeah, and the mind has a lot to do with this. Another incident of something that cannot be explained by Newtonian physics is that in China, first of all, the Chinese government there's laws on the books now in China that time travel is illegal.
Wow.
How about that? Why would they outlaw something they know doesn't exist?
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, there may be some good reasoning for that. What could be the consequences? What if time travel became, like the Jetsons? Like everybody has a folding car that turns into a briefcase, but it also goes backwards and forwards in time. I can't even contemplate the consequences. I mean, you go back and make yourself rich. Go back and make yourself, instead of marrying this girl, marry the other girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going back and fixing a problem. Let's say you don't like your wife. You realize, 20 years in, you're like, I should have married the other girl that I dumped a week earlier. And you go back and you fix that. Then you go forward 20 years later with that girl, and the same situation occurs again. How do you know you're going to fix it? By going back into the past.
Yeah. Let me give you a parallel to that one. My co-host on the broadcast team Alpha Show, Nori Love, she's a hypnotherapist, and she takes people, put them into a hypnotic state, and take them forward in time so they can meet themselves, talk with themselves, maybe have advice from themselves. Because hopefully, let's say if you go forward 4 years, you might be just a little bit smarter 4 years from now than you are today, so you could give yourself advice.
Yeah. And so, well, I mean, they actually address that very briefly, and you have it's kind of subtly in the Back to the Future movies. Like there's at the end of the second one, or in the middle. Yeah, I think it's the end of the second one. Where there's a drag race between Marty and another car, and earlier in the movie, you found out that during that race he had a crash and he broke his hand. And he couldn't play music, and he didn't have a rock and roll career like he wanted. So at the end of the movie, he remembers that he heard in the future. So he doesn't drag race the guy. He doesn't break his hand. So
Yeah.
that fixes that problem. But you have to know where that key point in your life is to go back and fix. And you can't be certain that if you go back to that point and fix that problem and then move forward in the timeline, that the same problem doesn't transfer over, or a new problem doesn't, or something even worse comes over. So I think it's
I always think of 12 Monkeys, that movie, and I love the H.G. Wells stuff, but 12 Monkeys is always Terry Gilliam.
It's a very bizarre movie, and it's also a very bizarre television series as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm thinking about what Nori is doing with that hypnosis session, is that it creates solutions. You'll be amazed what kind of answers that you get from yourself 4 years from now that will help you solve your present situation.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you tell yourself, don't go through that door. Don't take that job. Don't go on that motorcycle. That's when your life turns for the worst.
Yeah. And that brings up timelines.
Yeah.
Because we are in a timeline right now, and I kind of suspect that we are in the same one because I'm sitting here looking at you.
Yeah.
And let's take a scenario here. Let's say that your life really sucks. And you really would like to have something different. What if you were able to switch into a different timeline where your life really didn't suck? That would be a very, very attractive option.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a way to do this. You remember, we live in a mind-created, holographically projected, self-aware universe. So if it's mind-created, the mind has a lot to do with whatever you see around you. The mind creates that construct of everything around you. So if there's something you don't like, the mind can start working on removing it from your movie. And it can do that by switching timelines. Now, remember, whatever you see around you is energy, right?
Yeah.
When we say mind created, think about it. What does a mind do? It holds memory, creates memories, and it creates pictures and creates real things that you interact with. All of these things is coming through the brain and being transmitted out. So it is energy. Energy does not go away. It can only be transmuted to something different.
Yeah, you can only change it. It cannot be destroyed.
That's right. So that what you have right now cannot go away. It can go away from your perception of it, but the energy will stay with it. So if, let's say that you did something really stupid, let's say 5 years ago. Oh, I got my hand up. I've done some stupid things. Let's say that thing you are still suffering from today. Let's say that you wanted to change timelines so that thing did not happen. Well, it will happen in this timeline because you did it, so it's energy. But if you went back 5.5 years before and start concentrating on what you were doing back then and know that this decision will come up 5 months from now, and you start visualizing, you start intending, and you start an emotional interaction with a decision that was different than the one that brought you grief. Now you decide to do a different direction, and you keep doing that over and over again. Repetition will create new neural network that will bring you a new reality to be projected. So now you could end up going up a different timeline when that decision comes, because you're not going to do the same thing again. You could find yourself in a different timeline. The only thing about it is that you probably will not be able to remember the bad thing that you did. So you would probably not remember, which is
So
okay.
if you make a mistake and you remember the mistake, and then, like you said, 5 years after the mistake, you go back in time before the mistake, is the memory going to be erased?
It may, because now your consciousness is in a different timeline
Before
where
the event. So
you may not be able to remember. There are two schools of thought within quantum mechanics on this. They say that when you are in a new timeline, the old one collapses. The reality in the old one collapses to nothing. I used to believe that was true, but I've changed my mind on that after I was able to take some pictures from the past. So now, when you're in the new timeline, you may not remember the old one, because that consciousness is following that timeline and you're the new one. So there's a separation of consciousness. That is the best way I can probably understand and be able to explain to you.
Yeah, they actually said something like that in the, I think it was the Loki TV show, where they had a great deal of time travel going on. And they said that, they were going back and changing things in previous time strains. And they said that we have to go back in time to do this before the timeline heals itself and our memories change to the new timeline. So we might not remember what we were doing. So we got to get this done before the timeline catches up to us. So
yeah,
I see what you're saying. It sounds like it's going to be a bitch to do time travel, no matter how you do it.
I was just going to say, I've read in the Neil Donald Walsh, those Conversations with God books, he compares it to like a Xerox machine. And then I guess if you made a wrong choice, it comes back up and you can make the right choice. And then it goes to that path. It sounds kind of similar, but a lot more complex the way you're describing it, for sure.
Yeah,
like
everything you think, you do, you visualize, you see, you experience, there is made a record of it. And that record is, first of all, recorded in the brain, and also in your mind, as well as in the quantum existence or the universal mind. There's a record of it in several different places like this. So you could, psychics are somewhat better at this. They can go to that universal mind, or some of them call them the Akashic records. That's fine. And they can get that information from there and bring it into their mind, pass it down to the conscious understanding in the brain, and they can be able to relive or see the occurrence. And there is ways to do this. Astral travelers, now you are in a higher vibration where you have more access to these things. And especially if you go beyond the astral world, then you have access to everything past, present, and future. But what we are having here is an illusionary existence. But this illusion does not stop at the edge and the edge of the physical existence. It also continues into the lower astral world in a vibration slightly higher than us. The way we know that, ask any astral traveler. They will tell you that when you leave the body, you may see other people, other entities, other things. Some of them people are just, they died and they have no clue what's going on. If somebody dies and have no spiritual knowledge, they're going to be really confused. And they are going to be coming to you asking questions if you are out there in the astral vehicle or traveling by consciousness. So that's why you got to be a little careful when you leave the body and go out there and explore that like this. Don't start interacting with a lot of things out there, because it may follow you home.
Yeah, I've heard about that from many other aspects of paranormal, particularly like poltergeist activity is sometimes followed not only the people from one home to another, but the people who come to like cleanse the home. It's followed them to their homes. But I've also heard about in astral travel that I haven't been. I don't know how to do it, but allegedly there's like a silver string or a silver cord that attaches is part of your soul back to your existence, your reality. And if that's broken while you're astral, you die on your plane, but you're stuck in the astral plane. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something to that. That's how you get back, is you follow that silver string back. But if it's severed, time's up.
That astral substance is very strong. It will not break. But the only way it could separate you from the physical body, if when you're laying in bed and you're out there somewhere, then if the roof caves in and kills you in the bed, then you get separated. And that's about the only thing. There is always this safety valve in the universe. If you get so far away that you run out of astral substance to keep that cord connected, then when you run out, you're slammed back in the body, and that can hurt all over.
Like a bungee cord kind of thing. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I've had a lot of light being experiences where I've seen them with my physical eyes, sober, and sometimes while partying. I've seen them a long time ago. But it's almost like that part of us is kind of like a light being, and it's showing me, because I've looked up into the heavens with my naked eye and seen like a ton of them. It's like they're in a quantum realm out there. It's kind of like a Sims or something, like I don't even like that game, but that's what it reminded me of. And it's like I could just see them. I was also wondering if I was seeing what we do when we sleep, if there's people projecting up there, and somehow that part of me is showing me that through my naked eye, which is kind of weird and a unique thing I've heard not many people have done, but I've seen that, the light being thing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that when you call it astral travel, it may not be astral travel. If you are out there and you see the cord, you are traveling in the astral vehicle. Your astral body is there. But if you look around and see no cord, you're not astral traveling. You are traveling by consciousness. And by doing that, there is no limitation to distance. You could, if you had a destination, let's say on the other side of this galaxy, of course, we don't know what's out there, so it's kind of hard to get your bearings, but you could travel there in a split moment. But if for your astral vehicle to get to the other side of this galaxy, chances are you would run out of astral substance and you may not be able to get there. There is some limitation to distance. And I know this, but I got to come clean on this one. I used to do a lot of it, but I'm not all that good anymore on it because I have not practiced enough, and I can't get out all the time. Once in a while I can when the situation is right, but not all the time. But this is something that can be practiced. In fact, on broadcastteamalpha.com, we have some classes where you can learn how to do this. But that is for the members of our mastermind group. You can get in touch with us, and we can show you how to take those classes. It's simple to learn. It's just that it takes a little practice. I think it took me a month or two doing it every night before I was able to get out of the body and turn around and look at myself. And it scared the daylight out of me. I think, oh, holy chocolate, did I die? So I hurried right back in the body again, and I couldn't even fit myself. So it scared me until I realized that, yeah, this is what I wanted to do. I didn't die. So now I started doing it more, just traveling around the house and just take baby steps.
One thing I want to ask you kind of off the cuff, and you may not know anything much about it, or maybe you've heard something. I've been watching a lot of stuff with the dog man stuff. Like there's a lot of documentaries on Tubi, a lot of Texas sightings of the humanoid dog-like creatures. Have you ever heard any weird intel about those or what they may be? Has that ever crossed your path?
Well, the thing about that is that I think there's too many sightings, too many incidents to be just made up.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird ones for sure with that lately.
And I think that there may be an interdimensional aspect to that, kind of like Bigfoot, because there are people that have seen a Bigfoot, and they turn around and they walk away and they poof disappear. There may be something similar with a dog man. I don't know. I have not really looked into that particular creature much, but I think there is some interdimensional aspect to that one.
Could bleed through. Yeah. Then you got,
Maybe
you know,
Bigfoot.
Anubis and stuff from Egyptian lore. I mean, they have dogmen and stuff in Egyptian lore, so it's not like
Yeah.
that.
It's a common theme, anthropomorphized animals throughout history. But the thing with the Bigfoot confusion is now I have seen Bigfoot up very close. I mean, like from where I'm sitting here to about where that door is about the distance I saw him at, within 10 feet. It was through a window. I was inside the house. He was outside of the house, but the face is human, 100%. It's different than ours. They got the hair is most of the face is covered with hair and or look like really big, long hippie mustache and hippie beard. But the animal is on the same track as us genetically. There's no question about that.
Oh, they have.
I don't think that creature has interdimensional capabilities. However, there is a creature, and I forget its name. I'm getting older, so but the creature is Chewbacca-like, Wookiee-like, Bigfoot-like. It's a 9-foot, 10-foot tall, hairy creature, but it uses technologies. It travels in spaceships from other star systems to this star system and back, and it's not a frequent visitor, but it has visited the planet frequently. And when it does, it may have some sort of cloaking device, which gives off the illusion of stepping through a portal or coming from another dimension. I don't think the hairy ones are interdimensional or extra portal or extra planar, if you will.
Well, what you just said, though, that makes sense too, because there is a lot of reports of UFOs at the same time someone has seen a Bigfoot.
But very recently, though, I mean, if you go back to the 50s reportings, there are lots of UFO reportings, but very few where there's a UFO and Bigfoot. But if you take the 1950s, like a map of UFO activity, and then you take a map of the United States and Bigfoot activity, and you overlay them on top of each other, you will find that those activities are in the same places.
And if a physical Bigfoot dies like a human, it probably has a ghost that's like a quantum side or a spirit or something that's still alive. So, well, there's that. There may be physical ones and ghost ones. I mean, I don't know, but there's definitely. I've interviewed enough people about Bigfoot and Dogman that there's definitely something going on. I've had people in here that I definitely know they were telling the truth. I've never seen, but
they are intelligent. In fact, we know they have a language because there are people that have heard them talking to each other in strange ways, not any language that we would even recognize, but they are communication going back and forth.
It's very like if you watch Star Wars, it would be something like how Chewbacca speaks. It's a guttural noise. I mean, I've heard some very weird recordings, which it actually sounds like conversation, but you can't make out what they're saying in it. But it is definitely not a human voice. It's a Bigfoot recording.
I remember growing up back in Norway, over in Europe, and we had something looking almost like a Wookiee. The little short guys, hairy guys, and they live in the mountains. They said the people say, "Yeah, we've seen them. They're running. When we come, they run away." So they're there. Too many people have seen this. Incredible people.
Yeah, very credible. And the Bigfoot thing, I don't really follow it so much as I've seen him. So I don't have to go. I mean, yes, I would love to bring one to science, but I think the only way that's going to happen is if we find a dead one or actually make one dead ourselves. But I don't want that to happen. But having watched the show Finding Bigfoot, I forget the guy's name, Matt Moneymaker, is it? They did a test. They did a test with a deer carcass they had found, that was deceased on the side of the road. And there's two speculations as to why we don't find the physical remains of Bigfoot. But if you think about it, how often do you go out and you find the remains of anything? Unless you see it on the side of the road, most of the time in the woods, you don't find the remains of anything. You might find a bone here or a bone there, but you don't know that that animal died on that spot. So what they did with this deer is they staked it to the ground outside in the backyard of someone's house, and it took 7 days for this, 400 or 500 pound animal to decay to where there was nothing there. There's a few scattered bones, and that was it. Gone. 7 days. And this was in like the summer. So if the temperature goes up and gets more higher, take less days. If it were to go down and be cooler, it would take more days. So that's part of the thing, is when it doesn't take long for the body to decompose out in the wilderness unless it's very cold. And if it's very hot, it will decompose faster. But there's also speculation that Bigfoots bury their dead.
Yeah.
So
they dispose of them somehow, because it's you never find one.
It's a huge society. I mean, it has to be, but they have to be doing something like that. If there's that many that are seen that frequently across the entire planet, somebody would have found a body at some point. So they must be doing something with it. Either they're leaving them in the deep woods to decompose, or they're burying them.
Yeah. There's also stories of rangers at national parks and stuff having numbers that they call if something like that happens. Like, let's say they find a body or there's something that comes out. It's probably like a cleanup for that kind of thing too. Like, I've seen that on some lucrative documentaries and stuff like that. But one thing also I want to bring up, I know we talked about Project Bluebeam and stuff like that. I don't know if you've kept up with that Secret of Skinwalker Ranch show, and there's a Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show on the History Channel. But those things have reached such levels of spookery of government agents. They're in broad sight on that show, revealing phenomenon, having crazy things happen, people getting sick on the ranch. But the craziest thing is they have like roundtable meetings every season, and it's got former Bigelow personnel, state attorney of Utah, all these government spooks. The last season ended with them agreeing there's a base under there they can't drill through, and they think it may be alien or so military, that just so crazy stuff that I've never seen on the show, on a show at all. But to top it off, there's this Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show that has that Chris Bledsoe that has a book called UFO of God. And I have the book. I haven't finished reading it. I'm using discernment with it because it's so creepy. But it's on Amazon in the Christian section with 5 stars, about a guy that works with the government that can summon UFOs. And his best friend's that Colonel John Alexander. And on that Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show, he summons this phenomenon with 2 former CIA spooks who were there as investigators, and Colonel John Alexander standing right next to him. And if you look up UFO of God on Amazon and reading the reviews, all these people are like, oh, I'm doing this now, and I can summon lights in the sky. And I've had some similar phenomenon like that in the past, to where I interacted with it, ask it to move and stuff. But my thing is with the Miami Mall thing, which that seemed kind of, I didn't really buy into that whole story, even though it seemed weird. And then the Peru thing, and then the Las Vegas thing. The Peru and Las Vegas seemed a little more substantial than the mall thing to me. But I'm just telling you, there's definitely spook shenanigans going on with that show. Yeah. Shows the craziest damn thing I've ever seen, with government spooks out in the open talking about it and saying all this crazy stuff.
Yeah. And maybe spooks in more than one definition. We call the CIA agents spooks too. So they may be some disinformation right in the middle of it. But I think the thing in South America, I think, has some credibility because of the people in that village, as well as the one in Las Vegas. I believe there's some good movie footage of that.
Those are crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's something to that. But when we talk about Project Bluebeam, though, that has been around since back in the 1960s. In fact, Werner von Braun talked about that. Yeah, we're going to have a fake alien invasion. That's the last card the deep state have. So if we wake up one day and see thousands of ships in the sky, we know 2 things. First of all, they failed at everything else. So that's the last card. And for the second is that the first wave of UFOs are not our friends. They're here to create fear. The second wave is when the good guys come to clean up. So this is all planned, and there's a NASA administrator, Charles Bolden. He wrote something on aliens. He said that by 2025 we will have an alien invasion. So he was on the inside. He knows a few things.
And could it be a foreign nation pretending to be an alien invasion, or our own? But it could also be like China with weird UFO stuff too, as other stuff.
I was
like
under the impression it would be holographic in nature. The fake alien invasion
Absolutely.
Would be holographic. Yeah.
The blue beam, that is all holographic, except for a few real ones in between that is shooting at the things on the ground to create fear. I can expect that to happen if they can get it. But now there's so much information out there that people expect that this is going to be fake.
Yeah, is it going to work? Yeah, this is the cat's out of the bag, as it were.
There is, speaking of UFOs, there is something called the smoking gun document. I wrote this down because I wanted to tell you guys about it. There is, go to the FBI website, go to vault.gov.fbi. There is something called UFO groups. And then go to document 6751. And they talk about the fact that, yeah, we know the aliens are here. They are coming back and forth, but they are interdimensionals, and we're talking with them. We have contact. It's right on the FBI website. Now, what I'm concerned, how much more disclosure do you need than that?
Yeah, I've seen that. I believe it talks about the interdimensional beings and stuff. I've seen that one for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely crazy.
They are well on their way with Project Bluebeam because there is several steps that they go through. First of all, they got to destroy religion, and they create earthquakes, and they rewrite history. That comes under one section. Another one is holographic UFOs. And the third one is telepathic and electronic communication, 2 ways with entities in the sky. And that's where they have the plan that in the Christian world and the Western world, you're going to see Jesus coming back. He's going to be right up there, huge guy. And he's going to be talking to you. You're going to hear his voice in your head. That's in their papers. There's the CIA document that explains this. You can probably find it in the reading room on the website. And what they're doing is that they're using an old technology called voice to skull. And that means that they beam microwaves at the key voice in on the microwave. So when it hits your skull, it turns into vibration that you can hear as a voice. So now they are from the satellite, they're talking to you, telling you something like Jesus is saying, oh, do as the government tell you so they can protect you. I'm just playing on words here, but something like that. That is the plan. So now what do we do? Well, we have to know that this could happen. I personally don't think they will be able to play this card because too much information is out there. But you never know. I never saw that. I never saw that anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. I don't know if you saw the most recent Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, or not actually the middle one. This is the middle one with Tom Holland, where he fights Mysterio, who is allegedly somebody from another, extra dimensional Earth. But he's in charge of some very serious holographic technology, and he creates these holographic, earth-shattering events that he goes and saves the planet from. Sounds very similar to that. I don't know if that's where they got that, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think they can play that card. I mean, you would have to actually, like Jeffy said, you'd have to have enemy troops. Like we'd have to send our planes to Russia to hide behind those holographs to shoot at their people. They'd have to send their fighter aircraft to our country to shoot at our citizens. Because how are you going to get one of our fighter pilots to shoot on civilians for a fake UFO invasion? No, it's going to be Russian planes on American soil, U.S. planes on Russian soil, shooting at each other under holograms. Yeah. That would definitely make it work.
Yeah, there is one thing I really want people to remember, and that is who and what we are. We are not this physical meat suit that we are carrying around. We are a spiritual being that have created this physical vessel to travel around and get physical experiences so that the spiritual being can learn and grow, because a spiritual being cannot have physical experiences. So now the mind creates everything. So that is what we do. Nori and I put together this mastermind group. And what we are doing there, we are creating the future before we have to live it. We are molding, we are kind of paving the road for our timeline into the future with good things in it. And we have done some incredible things. I mean, it seems like we are creating out of seemingly nothing sometimes. We have healed people on their deathbed to walking out of the hospital the next day, and we have created rain almost out of, well, not clear sky. There were some clouds, but not much, in a matter of an hour and a half. So these things are possible once you focus, you visualize it, you imagine it, you feel it, you love it into existence. If anybody wants to join us in that mastermind, I welcome you. Send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com, and I'll send you some information. You come and check it out and see if you like to participate.
Very cool. I had an experience when I was a kid that my dad blamed me for making it rain, and he hit me. We were working in a car in a hot field, and it was so hot it was blue clouds. I mean, not blue clouds, blew out. And I was sweating, and I was like, I wish it'd rain. He hit me. Yeah. He was abusive. He's passed now, but God bless his soul. But that was weird. Like, that was really weird.
Well, maybe you did. Don't discount these things.
I have a book on weather shamanism. There's stuff to it for sure.
Yeah, remember Art Bell some 25 years ago when he did that experiment? They were in Australia, in Texas. Texas was burning up. They have not rained for about 4 months or so, and cattle was drying, towns were running out of water, and Art Bell went on the air and told the 20 million listener that was there, is a visualized rain over Texas. And within hours, there were thunderstorms all over Texas, and the rain came, and the weather forecasters came out and said they were dumbfounded. This should not have happened. There were no moisture anywhere in the computer models that could create the rain, but it did. Remember that?
Yeah. There's stuff like that. There's these little dwarf native guys called like Bone and Mike, and they've been on a show called Reservation Dogs that has a lot of great native actors in it. That's really good, like Wes Studi and stuff. But they went on that. I don't normally watch those singing shows, but I saw it on YouTube. They went on that show where Howard Stern's one of the hosts, one of those stupid singing shows. I don't watch them, but I watched it just to see those guys. And it was not raining outside at all. They did this little rain dance, and the cameras went out, and it rained afterwards. It was these little native dudes dancing around. They're funny. It's like Mike and Bone, or Bone and Mike, or something like that. But and
and you know what we do every time things like that happens? We try to explain it away. Oh yeah, that was a coincidence. It would have rained anyway. We go there and try to explain it away, because that we can live with in our paradigm.
Well, we've always heard, I mean, since I was a kid, about natives having the ability to, what is a rain dance, and you hear that all your life, about a rain dance and stuff. So And that's why when there's bad weather, I always tell the weather spirits I'm grateful for the rain. And so far, so good. I was through Hurricane Michael, so that was
Yeah,
scary in Florida. So that's something that I think, by doing that, it helps you on some level. So far, so good. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm grateful for the rain. Thank you.
Well, you
But
must be doing something right.
still kicking.
So,
Yeah.
Augie, someone in the chat room was wondering if it's the Mastermind Collective or Collection.
Mastermind, we put together a group of people with tremendous minds, and we get together and we concentrate on certain things. We visualize it, we feel it, we intend for it to happen, and then we meditate. We lower the brainwave patterns down below the alpha range, or however close we get, and then we see it happening. And this has been working for us. And of course, it doesn't work every time, but almost every time we get together, we have stuff happening that shouldn't, like mailbox money. You need $400 to repair a car. Have no clue where to get it. In a matter of a day, you suddenly have it. It shows up. You know, yeah, and there we go again. We try to explain it away. Of course, that was just a coincidence. I love those coincidences when they keep happening. Then this is something that we got a group of people here that we got to remember the definition of a mastermind is when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind, which has the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other. So if 1,000 people get together, concentrate on one thing, now you have the mind power of 1,000,000 minds, and that is powerful.
But he was asking about the email. Is it collective or collection at
Oh
gmail.com?
no, the mastermind connection. Connection, yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't hear the question.
It's okay, but
it's okay. No, that's okay. Because I put the email in the chat room so they could use it, but I spelled it wrong.
Good.
It's my bad.
So what do you think's about to happen, Augie? Everything seems crazy as I always say hell. I try to say crazy as heaven, but things just seem, I don't know, on the war scale, it just gets worse and worse. I'm just surprised it hasn't happened sooner at this point. A nuke or something. It's so crazy.
Don't worry about it. It's gonna get worse.
Yeah, baby. I saw the newest Mad Max again, so that's what that's my training.
No,
I just watched that last night, actually.
I've seen enough of the future. I am not worried about the future at all. Though there's gonna be some hiccups. We may have a time where a month or two nothing works. And that could be, the government right now is telling us that Russia or China, they're going to attack the electric grid. Sure, they might, and it might go down for a while. But it's the future that I've seen is good. But the rest of this year, there's going to be a lot of turmoil, and maybe into next year some, but there is going to be good in the end. We are going to win this one. You got to remember, the beast does not lie down and die. They will fight to the last person because they know that if things turn into our favor, they're all going to hang. So I'm not worried about the future. The only thing is that be strong for the next year or so. Yep.
It's definitely crazy. I think there's a lot of stuff going on with the frequencies and stuff that manipulate us on some level. Like Christina, she's in New Orleans right now at Mardi Gras, but anytime she's near the phone, my fiance, her hands get all messed up from the rays. And I've noticed if I turn it off and get away from it, I feel better. Like, it just seems like they're zapping us on so many different levels. I mean, it could be even foreign nations, it could be our own government. It seems like there's frequency. I've had Robert Duncan on before, and supposedly he made some kind of technology for the CIA, and they used it, and he whistleblowed. And so I know there's things like that. It seems like we're being bombarded with it.
Yeah. And when I talked about timelines, it is important to understand that we have a lot more control over where we are going than what we are told we have. So that's why in the mastermind, we create our timeline with good things with it. And we've done that for 3 years. And a lot of the stuff we have asked for is happening. So we are creating it. And everybody out there that is listening to this should create their own mastermind also. You can do that if you're a family of 3 people. Get together, decide what you want, then visualize it, feel it, love it, intend for it to happen, and meditate on it. If you do that, you start putting things into the quantum existence that you can pull back later, and it becomes physical with you. So I know ball clubs, football clubs and stuff, they do this all the time. Why don't families do it? We should. Church groups should do it.
It's a creative visualization. I know I learned about it from
Yeah.
shamanism when I started reading it in my early days.
Yep.
I need to do it more often. We forget to do it, and then we remember, but you have to keep doing it.
And we need to search out the truth. I'm going to read a quote to you from this is the head of the CIA under Ronald Reagan. He said one time that when we find that all of the things that the American public believes is false, we know our disinformation program is working. He said that at the tail end of an interview when he didn't think the mic was running.
Yes. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. And then we talked about future science and UFOs and stuff. Remember what Ben Rich, the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, said one time?
I might have it mixed up, but it's either he said something to the effect that if you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've already done it.
We know how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other guy was John Lear, or is it Bill Lear? I can't remember. I think it's John Lear, grandson of Bill Lear. He said something almost to the same effect. He's like, if you've imagined it, we can already do it. So.
Yeah. Now, he also said, we know how to take ET home. It will not take a lifetime to do it. We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we know how to do.
Yeah.
Now, take that one, put it in your pipe and smoke it. I tell you, that is a pretty powerful statement.
If you take them both together, both men's statements, and put them both together, both those statements are very similar. What both men are saying is essentially we have technology that would boost us at least 200 years, at least into the Star Trek era of technology, where we can go up to a wall and go tea, Earl Grey, 4 sugars, hot, bing, it's there. No energy. You're not, and it could be infused with, it tastes like Earl Grey, but it won't have any of the bad stuff in it for you. You can have it, you can program your machine any way you like it. No caffeine, extra caffeine, the technologies are out there.
One thing I want to ask, I've noticed with mushroom, like a microdose situation, how that can be helpful. And I think some consider it brain food, and it's something I hadn't done in a long time, but it was just such a small amount. But I did notice like a lifting of like depression from it. And I know a lot of states are using that and legalizing it, which surprised me with doctors and stuff, mushrooms and things like that. But what are some things out there besides psychedelics that can feed the brain? Because I think my brain is starving lately.
Well, everybody needs to be on a nutritional program of one kind or another, because I have read a Senate document back in, I think it was written in 1932, where it said that all farmland is depleted of minerals. So we need to supplement minerals, because if you don't get it in the food, where are you get the minerals? The body needs minerals. The brain needs minerals in order to function properly. And probably the most beneficial plant for the brain and the body is marijuana.
Really?
As food, not to smoke it.
As food, yeah. Like
No,
as in a salad.
you
Yeah.
got to eat it.
What makes the difference between smoking and eating? What changes in that?
Well, it goes into the lungs and it goes in the blood, but it stops at the blood-brain barrier. So I would say the hemp paste is probably the best one. Not just probably, it is, because there you take the whole plant. You don't throw away everything that you don't think you need. You take the whole plant and make a paste out of it. And when you eat that, that replenishes the whole body. But this is hard to find. Right here.
What is it exactly?
Yeah. But I'll tell you, it will feed the brain. It will also get the phytonutrients that at the end of the neurons, they don't touch their open spot between each neuron. And there's a spark going across there. There is rhodium, iridium, and other metals at the edge of the neurons. If they get clogged up, or if they are not there, which they wouldn't be if you don't have a real food supplement, then the spark will not work and your brain will be slow, or may even start going into dementia or something. All kinds of things can happen. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving any advice here, but I think this is my experience.
Yeah, I've been doing brownies, and you can buy it's medicinal here, and it's expensive, but you can get a license here. But they have like the condensed oil, and my mom will make it. She's 70 and she does them. I have to be careful with her. She gets too wild with them. It's like, man, you need to slow down on those brownies. Like, for real. Gonna go into a coma. But she does too many, but I've had them recently. I'm very light with it though. I don't take a lot of it at a time.
Yeah, well,
that's been part of the problem with the edibles, particularly, is they don't know how to dose it. So they warn you to be very careful with them, because it's recreational and medical across the street in Maryland. It's medical here in Pennsylvania. But again, they caution you on eating the edibles, because they're making gummy worms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's only so much milligrams per container, and it's like a 10 milligram per 10 milligrams per container, and like 1 milligram per chew or whatever. But it reacts differently to each person who eats it. So you got to be careful with them. You can have not something fatal, but something that might scare you and cause a medical emergency event.
Yeah. Well, Jeffrey, I think you're doing it right. You're not smoking the brownies. You're eating them, so you actually get it as a food.
I have to be careful with the ones we have lately. It make you sleepy. I have to do those when I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
They don't make it in edibles like that at the dispensaries here. It's only candies, so it's not like it's not.
I feel like with sativa, like I do indica, but I need to do sativa too. It seems like a sativa helps uplift me more, like a DNA weird kind of thing. Where indica is good, but there's something about sativa that I like.
It's good for like being active and creative and going out and doing things. If you want to rest and relax, let's say you have an injury like I have, an indica would be indicated. And then they have the hybrids, which I've tried some of the hybrids. I don't, they kind of it's like drinking too much coffee. The hybrids, it's just too much.
And Augie, what's the wear and tear on the lungs? Because I've used the vapes with the TH, the weed stuff and the smoking. I mean, in the long run, that's really bad to be doing anyway, right? To the lungs.
Yeah, because anything with a smoke will have a residue, and that
Mhm.
residue is deposited in the lungs. It creates phlegm in there, or not all of it is passed through the air sacs into the blood. So there's a residue in there. And I don't care what you smoke, and it could be tobacco. And of course, tobacco, American tobacco is full of about 400 and some chemicals that is no good for you. But whatever you smoke, it creates a residue inside the lungs, which in a long run could hurt them. That is my
Yes.
opinion only.
Yeah, and if you ask any medical professional, particularly doctors, the fastest way for them to get medicine into the human body without sticking a needle in your arm is
Yeah.
through the lungs. They don't go through the lungs particularly because of the damage it can cause with smokes and steams. But my brother was asthmatic all through my childhood, so I spent my early youth through several hourly, daily visits to the ER room because his asthma, and they treated him with. He takes a big capsule with powder in it. They put it in a machine with a propeller in it, and then he would puncture it, and then he had to suck that powder into his lungs to help the asthma. And then later they came out with aerosol sprays later on. But when he first started, he was having to suck powder into his lungs through these propeller devices. You see the impalers people breathe in all the time. They push a button. They didn't have that back in the early 70s. So that's some horrible stuff happening there.
For some reason you can't see them, but that's my brow. For some reason the stupid background deletes
Put it in front of your body, and then you'll see it. Put it in front of your face or your body.
Snoochie boochies. Brownies. My mama said makes the brownies.
Okay, that's a whole week's worth, huh?
Yeah, for her it's like 2 days. Me, it's a week.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Oh, here's something kind of interesting that I want to mention. That is, I know that we're talking about time travel and all that good stuff. There is some evidence. In fact, I have some of it on our website, broadcastteamalpha.com. I got 2 pictures that I took. The pictures have different things in them, but they're taken at the same time, which means they were taken in 2 different timelines, and they were taken at 2 different times, but they showed up at the same time. You can go to Broadcast Team Alpha, go into the picture gallery, go to page 15, and I think it's right about in the middle of the page. There is 2 pictures next to each other, kind of greenish. One of them have leaves on the trees, and the road is really wet because it's been raining. And the other one has no leaves on the trees, and the road is dry. But their pictures were taken at the same time. So go have a look at that. There's a lot of writing that explains how I took those pictures. So it'll be another thing that will just kind of rattle your cage if you're sitting on the fence. And also it might just challenge your paradigm a little bit.
I gotta ask. I got in trouble once. Oh, I wouldn't say I got in trouble, but a long time ago, I pissed off Alfred Weber and Andrew Basago because I've said something about that Obama time travel story that I didn't believe it. It was just hard to believe for some reason. Have you ever heard that story? You think there's any truth to Obama time traveling? Like just saying it sounds goofy. I mean, maybe it's true, but I don't know where that one came from. It was out there pretty big.
I don't know. The thing about it is that we need to quit thinking in the terms of old science. We need to start thinking in the present and future possibilities. And when we do, everything opens up.
Yeah.
Because our mind, technology is doubling every year and a half. And it's been doing that for several decades. And I will almost guarantee you that the technology that the secret space program and the dark side of government have is well over 50 years ahead of what we are told. 100 years, possibly in some cases, at our present growth. So
Our
we need
present growth is pretty impressive as it is. I mean, just think about it. Even if you just go back 100 years to 1924, what do they have? Cars and basic biplanes and propeller-driven. 30 years after that, we got jets and working on space travel. 30 years after that, we're in space. We have the space shuttle. 30 years after that, we're on Mars. And what we're going to be 30 years from now? We're going to have colonies on the moon and Mars and maybe other places like Venus, maybe Mercury. Who knows?
Yes, they're out there. And think of it, in 1903, the first airplane flew about 3/4 of a mile.
Seconds, I think it was. It was in the air for 112 seconds, something like that. It's even, or 112 feet. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
It flew for 112 seconds or flew 112 feet.
69 years later, somebody walked on the moon. So that gives you a little timeline from 1903 to 69.
Doesn't make sense.
It just now.
Doesn't make sense.
Where are they now?
Yeah. In a 40-year span, we went from not being in the air to being in the air with paper-covered aircraft over a wooden skeleton, and then we're on the moon. The time frames just they don't. So it's like steam and then gas, and which is it just for things to just morph. Just the time frame for things to improve has gone faster and faster. We're replicating and duplicating technologies and making them better every 10 years, or better, maybe even 5 or 6.
I got a weird time travel movie, 1979, Time After Time, and it's got Malcolm McDowell in it, and it's about H.G. Wells pursuing Jack the Ripper to time travel.
Who was played by?
That's a pretty good one.
He's played by David Warner, by the way.
Yeah, that's a classic. That's really good, really good.
Yeah, the classic phrase is Malcolm McDowell talking to the love interest in the movie is, I ate at this restaurant, this Scottish place, MacDougall's. It was McDonald's.
In the future.
Yeah. It is difficult to wrap our heads around where the future, what it will bring us, because we can only imagine it for right now. But if we imagine it strong enough, that's where we are going. And that's what we need to do. Every family, every person need to do that for themselves.
Honestly, Aage, I've been thinking, hoping, and wishing for a Star Trek style economy and technology since I saw Star Trek at the age of like 6 or 7, maybe even sooner, 4. I probably was watching it when I was 1, 2, and 3 because I was born a month after the show premiered. So my parents probably watched it with me in the crib saying, well, you're 2 years old, you're not going to remember it. But then it was, rerun throughout the 70s. I mean, I've seen every episode at least 100 times. Wanting and wishing for that has been that or becoming Spider-Man. It's one of the two. I want either one. I don't care which. Make me Spider-Man or give me Star Trek. I don't care. But that's what I've been wishing for the last 57 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I was going through chemo, I prayed to be a superhero and to be healed, and I was in the comics and stuff. But I do feel like something healed me, with the chemo and science. And then I did have a lot of weird crap happen with UFOs and seeing weird stuff, but I never got my symbiote mech suit or anything like that. But nonetheless, something heard me and showed me a lot of weird stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the mind can heal the body, and it does it all the time. That is one of the things that we also do on Broadcast Team Alpha. You can go to YouTube, Broadcast Team Alpha, and there's some videos there in the member section that you can reprogram the subconscious mind for perfect health, perfect memory, and other things like that. so the mind can heal the body. And that's probably what you did, Jeffrey, not knowing what you actually did.
Makes sense for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. Think about Joe Dispenza. Years ago, he had an accident. He broke his back. It was shattered. And he went to work on it, and he imagined it whole with the spinal cord rebuilt inside. The doctors told him he would never walk again. But in a matter of months, he was up walking because of what he was imagining in his mind. He repaired the spine. Everybody, I think, know that story.
I don't know them in particular, but there are quite a few stories where like things are told. The victim is told certain things by the medical professionals that you'll never do this, you'll never do that, and then it takes a long time sometimes. But all the medical professionals are like, this shouldn't happen. With the damage that was there, he should not be walking. He shouldn't be talking. Whatever the problem was. So, however it's happening, it definitely seems possible. It seems that I forget which science fiction movie I saw. They say that the human body. Oh, it was the Stargate series, TV series.
Oh, yeah.
Where they say the human body is much easier to repair. So if you watch the series at all, they kill people left and right. Everyone of the main characters has been dead at least 3 or 4 times and regenerated back to life. So they have this machine that they can put you in and it brings you back to life. So it's like, it's like turning off and on a light bulb for us, or these people, these technologies. They can turn human beings on up and kill you, and then we'll bring you back to life and we'll make you do something else. I believe that the technology is there for that kind of thing, even in the brain. But and we talked about this moments ago. Are they going to let that technology out so it will benefit humanity? Think about what we could achieve how many are there of us now? 6.5 billion on the planet. We're going on 7 billion, huh? We're going on 8 billion. Okay, we'll just round up to 8. We're going up on 8 billion. Imagine if you have 8 billion human beings who don't need money. All of a sudden, you can just go to your wall and get food. Imagine the things we could accomplish as a group. The things we could build. We could conquer the entire solar system in under a decade. If the whole planet didn't have to worry about energy, food, clothing, shelter, money, jobs, etc. They're not going to let that happen.
Yep. And I think everybody has seen Jean-Luc Picard walk to the replicator, look at it, speak to it, and say, Earl Grey tea, hot.
Yep,
and
tea, Earl Grey hot.
The tea in the cup shows up.
Yeah, or Chief Miles O'Brien will go up and give me a coffee, double strong, double sweet.
Yeah,
there. He asks for the same thing every time.
Yeah, and from what we hear from the 20 and back people is that these technologies are used. They're out there. It is just that it's not allowed for us to have them.
Not yet. Not until they have systems that supersede what they have now.
Yeah.
The only reason why we have cell phones is because they have a much better communications technology that the military is using, and it ain't cell phones. I can guarantee you, every military soldier out there, even the ones that don't know any of the top secret stuff, they all have a cell phone, but they're not using that technology to communicate within the military, especially in tactical situations. They have a much better system now.
Yeah.
Hey, Aage, did you see that weird jellyfish UFO over in Iraq base that was kind of being passed around? It was pretty weird, like some kind of mech suit or something. That was really weird. I know it was on Leak Project and a bunch of different stuff, but it was really
sometimes it's called the Star Wars Empire probe. It kind of looks like the in Star Wars the second one where the little probe comes out of the snow. It looks kind of like that, but with Predator technology, so you can sort of see the background through the shape of the device.
It was weird.
That's the one with the tentacles hanging down, right?
Yeah.
If you remember back on the Star Wars movie, they had they had
Same
one
thing.
like that.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Chewie and Han blew it up. Yeah, I don't agree with them calling it the jellyfish probe. It looks more like a mechanical octopus, but whatever.
It was weird. I know in the past, and I was partying and stuff with friends a long time ago, but we all saw some strange aerial phenomenon in the sky that seemed like something that should be in the ocean, like a big weird amoeba jellyfish, golden liquid, but in the sky. So there's definitely, you know, I know the thing we saw is probably some military crap, but there's definitely weird stuff like in the sky because I've seen it. It looks like it should be in the ocean.
Well, if you look at any old sci-fi, even just sci-fi artwork, particularly some of the Roger Dean stuff that he wrote, the artwork he did for the Yes albums, he's got some whales with wings flying in the sky. He's got whales with wings flying in outer space. And then there's other artists who do the same kind of thing, different types of animals. He's got this one that's called The Fish. It's like a big theme with the band Yes. It's like a ornithopter in space. So the concept isn't old. And I would not be surprised that within our lifetime we know there's life in space. We found, those little water buffalo things, microscopic dudes. On outside, not in the space, outside of the space shuttle or space station, on the windows, on the outside space they live. So I guarantee you there is macro forms that can live in space. There's the best example I have for that is again, going back to Star Trek, The Next Generation. There's a spaceship they find. The spaceship had an accident and all the crew died, and the spaceship is a sentient living creature that has cavities inside of it that are like, staterooms and bedrooms and places to eat and places to observe outside and do scientific work, what have you.
Yeah.
The spaceship, since its crew died, is trying to kill itself by waiting for a star to explode. Well, the Romulans and the Federation, they both want this idea, this technology. And when they get there, the person they bring with it melds with the ship, takes control over it, sends the Romulans on their way, and sends his friends back home, almost to the point where he almost kills them, sending them home. The idea of a living creature that can live in space, was it a spaceship? I don't know. There's some information as to UFOs that have spaceships that are semi-biological in nature, but also mechanical, where it's like you can touch the skin of the craft and it feels like an animal, biological, but it's hard to explain. But I've heard
there was one thing I was going to say. I've had weird dreams about alien stuff. Like I told Patricia Corey once, I saw a UFO taking dolphins out of the ocean, and the dolphins were singing, and I woke up and it was a dream. But recently, this week, I saw these 3 tall people, and they were almost like dressed like you would see like a James Bond spy sitting on a park bench, with a dumb trench coat and all that crap. They were dressed like spooks pretty much, but very tall. And one was a woman, and there was 2 men who were shorter, but I couldn't see their faces. They were so tall. And I just woke up like a lot of times I don't remember dreams, but this week I had that one, and I woke up like, what the hell was that? That was really weird. Like I've heard of tall whites and stuff like that. So I wondered if it was that or just my imagination being weird or whatever, but it's definitely a weird dream this week.
Yeah. Now we need to open our minds up, because our paradigm that we are living right now and our mind have accepted is very restrictive. See, our subconscious mind does not like new things. It likes it being comfortable in what it knows and understands. If we open up a little crack in that and accept new ideas to come in, we can work them into our paradigm where it could be accepted once we understand that it is real.
Definitely. Well, Aage and Jay, we have 1 minute. That's broadcastteamalpha.com. And Aage, it's always been a pleasure. I think this is like the 3rd time you're doing the trilogy. We're going to do some prequels.
Yeah. And one more thing, just go to Amazon and look for Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. In here, I'll teach you how to use your mind in ways you normally would think would be impossible.
Very cool. Well, it's always a pleasure. We appreciate it so much. It's always a great show. You carry the show when we're tired, so we love it. And thanks, Jay, and thanks, Aage, and thanks, everybody, for listening. United Public Radio 107.7. FM New Orleans. Everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.